If you clicked on this video, I'm assuming you're a fan of hip-hop. You saw the likes of Andre 3000 and Big Boy, Killer Mike, Future, and Janelle Monae in the thumbnail, and you thought to yourself, what? All of these people were in a rap group together? The answer is kind of, and everything starts with a man named Rico Wade. When it comes to some of the most influential names in hip-hop history, we can go down a list that varies from ultra-powerful and well-known to somewhat more obscure. For example, everybody knows Dr. Dre and all he's done for the game, but a significantly less amount of people would probably be able to tell you who J Dilla is. I'm guessing for most of you out there, Rico Wade would be more of a J Dilla in this situation. When we're talking about all the huge names that were once associated with this rap collective, Rico Wade was at the center of everything. He was the original foundation of what would later be known as the Dungeon family. Along with Rico at the center of everything were his friends and fellow producers Ray Murray and Sleepy Brown, who together were known as Organized Noize. It's very possible that you've never heard of Organized Noize, but I promise you've heard what they brought to the world of hip-hop and R&B. So Fresh, So Clean by OutKast, that was them. Waterfalls by TLC, that was them. Saturday by Ludacris, Organized Noize. Soul Food by Goody Mob, Don't Let Go by En Vogue, Comin' For You by Trey Songz, all of these great tracks that helped establish some huge names in music, and Organized Noize was behind the scenes for everything. This group of producers started to officially work together in around 1992, and fun fact, T-Boz of TLC was the one that introduced Rico Wade and Sleepy Brown. So after being evicted from his previous home/studio for too many noise complaints, Rico Wade moved into 1907 Lakewood Terrace, Atlanta, Georgia. This is an address that would soon become a historic landmark for the ATL because this was the home of the Dungeon, the makeshift studio in the unfinished basement of Rico's new home that would eventually bring you some of the most iconic rap albums of all time. The group that was recording in the Dungeon was referred to as the Dungeon family, and let me just say this, these were kids. Broke kids with huge dreams and incredible work ethics. 20 of Rico's closest friends and fellow collaborators were sleeping on the floor of this grimy basement, constantly working through the night, and sharing one bathroom. But soon enough, the hard work paid off, and Organized Noize was producing music from the Dungeon that started grabbing the attention of some big names. One of the groups from the Dungeon family was called PA, and they were the first ones to release a full project. While it didn't do very well commercially, the very unique and recognizable production from Organized Noize was noticed by legendary record executive L.A. Reid. With Reid interested in what was going on in the Dungeon, Organized Noize threw two of their most promising rappers, Andre 3000 and Big Boy, collectively known as OutKast, on a remix of TLC's What About Your Friends. While L.A. Reid didn't initially love OutKast, he saw potential in the boys, and with interest growing from other record labels, L.A. Reid signed OutKast and put them on the LaFace record label's debut compilation, A LaFace Family Christmas. And if you're asking yourself, did OutKast really become famous off a Christmas song? Not really. Even though they were told to make a Christmas-themed rap song for a Christmas-themed project, the two made Players Ball instead, an ode to life in Atlanta and a dedication to hustlers everywhere. And by the way, for another fun fact, guess who directed the music video for Players Ball? Believe it or not, it was Diddy, Puff Daddy, Sean Combs, whatever you want to call him, before he became super rich and famous. But even though OutKast didn't make the Christmas song that they were told to, Players Ball became an instant hit, and the Dungeon family was getting more and more recognition. The success of the song led L.A. Reid to help finance the debut album from OutKast, Southern Playalistic Cadillac Music, which in turn launched the duo into stardom, and more status came to everyone working in that basement in Atlanta. Soon more hits came from the Dungeon family. Goody Mob's Soul Food is an all-time great, and like I mentioned before, we can't forget about Organized Noize producing one of the biggest songs ever, TLC's Waterfalls. As the years went on, the Dungeon family saw a period of rapid, huge success turn into disaster. From around 1994 to about 2000, we saw Organized Noize executive producing album after album for OutKast, and all of these are obviously classics. And then besides OutKast, the collective was experimenting and they just got bigger and bigger, collaborating with new musicians including the likes of Killer Mike, Ludacris, Corrupt, Bubba Sparks, and more. The Dungeon also became the place where Big Boy of OutKast met a young aspiring musician who went by the name Janelle Monae, and while she wasn't officially making music with them during this time, she was affiliated with the collective, and this connection eventually led her to a feature on the 2006 OutKast album Idlewild, which was her first big taste of the spotlight. And for one of the weirdest parts of the story, there was a Dungeon family group that never really took off that was called Dec Connect. Listen to a snippet of their track Belly of the Beast and guess who's rapping.
In the belly of the beast, only the strong survive. Puff, fly, smoke, fire, blowing fumes to the sky.
No, that isn't Andre 3000 in disguise. That is a very young Future, who was a part of this failed group, and he went by the name Meathead, which all of these strange fun facts are just overwhelming at this point. But eventually, all good things must come to an end, with Organized Noize signing a $20 million deal with Jimmy Iovine and Interscope Records. They moved out west to California, and that was the beginning of the end for the Dungeon family. With too much money laying around, too much partying, and Organized Noize having major creative differences with the record label, the guys had to leave the money on the table. They backed out of the deal and moved back home, where things continued to go downhill. OutKast made Speakerboxxx The Love Below, and this was their first album that did not feature production from Organized Noize. Rico Wade felt betrayed, and that caused a major rift between the two parties. And with that album winning 3 Grammys and selling 11 million copies, the Dungeon family group Goody Mob was struggling to match their success, and they eventually disbanded. Once CeeLo left Goody Mob and he started becoming more of a pop star and he was shying away from his Dungeon family roots, this again made Rico Wade feel estranged and betrayed, and the Dungeon family continued to fall apart. Throw in a feud between Big Boy and Killer Mike that got legitimately violent, and that was pretty much the end of the Dungeon family. Rico Wade didn't have any of his stars left. He got addicted to drugs, and soon he was even forced to move out of his house that was home to the famous Dungeon recording studio where everything started. But here's the thing, I skipped something big within this story because I wanted to end on a few relatively happy notes. During the sort of gray area between the rise and fall of the Dungeon family, they actually put out an album together, and it's pretty great. Obviously, it wasn't very commercially successful because nobody ever really talks about the album Even in Darkness by the Dungeon family, but seriously, it's on streaming services and it's good stuff. Andre 3000 and Big Boy, CeeLo Green, Killer Mike, Bubba Sparks, it's got a bunch of people on it, and it's a very interesting forgotten moment in rap history. Big Boy and Andre 3000 eventually reunited for a Dungeon family show in Atlanta in 2016, which, if you know OutKast, you know reunion shows are very rare at this point in time. While 3 Stacks has generally just been wandering around playing the flute or whatever he's up to, Big Boy is still making solo stuff, and Organized Noize has been executive producing on it, so that's nice. Obviously, Killer Mike teamed up with LP to make some of the most critically acclaimed rap albums ever. Future stopped going by the name Meathead, rebranded his sound, and he's one of the biggest stars in the game, and Janelle Monae is one of the most important artists working today. And to give everybody the happy ending that they want to see, Big Boy was kind enough to buy back the house at 1907 Lakewood Terrace, and they're hoping to turn the Dungeon into a full-fledged rap museum. So I hope you liked this wild roller coaster ride of a story on the best rap collective that nobody remembers. Thanks for watching. Hey, thank you for watching that video. Be sure to check out the album by the Dungeon family. Super cool stuff. If you want to support the channel, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. You can follow me on social media at RenshawHS. You can buy my merch, support my Patreon, and thank you again. I'll see you soon.